Hello everybody, it's your Brozo here, and I have another episode of the Elevated Beings podcast. Today it's going to be a little different because I'm back in the RVA, and some of y'all might see my previous podcast. You might say, wait a minute, that dude look familiar right there. Yeah, that's Paris. But on his right, it's Mark England, and y'all might see him. Y'all might notice him as well. He's been on TED Talks, and also he's the face of Vocabulary, right? And real quick, what's the other name of your business? Enlifted, yeah. Vocabulary and Enlifted, right? Yeah. So if you look familiar, you've seen him on TED Talks. Or maybe you listen to him tell you how y'all stop BSing when you talk and talk how you really feel, right? Right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, because I know he's definitely going through his information has definitely helped me know how important my words are and to be way more straightforward. And I appreciate that. You hooked me up with that.
My pleasure.
That link. You know what I'm saying? So also, again, with Mark and Paris, they also connected through different ways as well. I'm gonna let them talk about that, but I've known Mark since I've been, I think 12 or 13 years old. We used to play football together, and in high school we used to be in the wrestling team, and I'm gonna let both of them kind of have a brief, tell them briefly about themselves, and then we're gonna get into business. So, Paris, go ahead. And actually, y'all can also talk about how y'all met. As well.
Okay, well, before we get started, I want to thank you for having me on your last podcast. Mm-hmm. And in the process of me doing that, I received a text not too long ago, and I would like to read that.
Okay.
But it's from somebody named Letitia. Good afternoon. I watched the story on YouTube yesterday, and it was nothing shy of a blessing and inspiring. I'll get right to the point. My godson was shot last December. He is 15 years old. Initially, he was paralyzed from the waist down, but now, after reneging on all treatment, it seems to be from the chest down. His mother has 6 kids. They live in Jacksonville, but are trying to move back to Richmond Southside. He has given up on life, in my opinion. He asks questions that we cannot answer, and I think you would be the perfect person to answer some of his questions and maybe be a mentor of some sort, showing him that life does go on and can be fruitful. Please feel free to give me a call at this number, something you may be interested in, and even if you're not, I definitely understand. I feel like God put you in this life for a reason, and his mother simply does not know what to do or possibly has the mental capacity to help. And she goes on giving me her number and information. And I just wanted to say, man, thank you, because your podcast with me on it touched somebody else. And that's what I do. I love to inspire and motivate people that have gone through disability or some type of drug abuse problem, and just need an extra push or some more motivation to inspire them to move on. And it just lets you know that through that podcast, I was able to touch somebody that's in Jacksonville, Florida.
That's it. Hey, that's powerful, man. Hey, that's what everybody in this room is a healer.
Yeah.
We're all teachers in our own right. So that's what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what we do, right? That's what we're here for.
That's right.
So I appreciate that as well, you know what I'm saying? And I'm very happy to hear that, because I tell people all the time, that's why I do this as well. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, go ahead.
All right, once again, I'm Pat. And I'm born and raised here in Richmond, Virginia. 2 up, 2 down. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I met Mark in a part of my life where I was just graduating out of a drug treatment program. And I was speaking. We had 15 guys that graduated in my class, which I just found out recently, last week, that there's only 4 of us that's still going strong in this process. 4 has already overdosed off of heroin. But I met Mark. I was doing they gave everybody 2 minutes to do our last spiel on, to talk about what was going on in our life. And I touched Mark. He was in the audience. And he can go on further than I can with that.
It's true. You more than touched me, man. My name is Mark England. I'm also Richmond, Virginia, born and raised.
That's right.
Right? And I've been in we'll call it the personal development game for 14 years now. Pretty wild. Focusing exclusively on how we tell ourselves stories. Tell ourselves stories to ourselves, about ourselves, and the language we use to do that, for better and for worse. And met Paris by accident. Thought I was going to listen to a mutual friend give a talk, cool, support the home team, and what it was him graduating from the healing place. And as a side gig, I'm also a professional speaker and professional speaking coach. One of the hats I wear in the business that we're in is public outreach. I've given, I stopped counting in 2017. I gave 500 professional presentations. Been on a little over 200 podcasts, and then people started reaching out for presentation skill development coaching. So I've got an eye to see talent through. And I've told you this before, man. Be the most gifted natural storyteller I've ever seen. He had, what was it, 250 people there?
Yes.
Myself included, in the palm of his hand, telling a story about Muhammad Ali and how the ground was no place for a champion. Get up, champ. Get up, champ. And I just said, wow. That's God-given skill. I got to meet this guy. And Marilyn, the program director,
Yes,
Miss Marilyn, she and I were friends, and we went out to dinner, lunch shortly thereafter. And at the end, I said, I want to meet Paris. Please put us in touch. So she did via email. And we met up for a coffee over at Starbucks off Broad Street. And a little chit-chat. And then I finally said, hey, man, do you want to speak? I remember it very clearly. And you said, speak about what? I said, speak about you, man. And on a side note, when I bring this particular story up somewhat frequently when I'm talking about indecisive speech, we call it soft talk. So you just went through the course. It's a real problem for people. It's also known as verbal litter. So talk, maybe I'll do this, and I guess we could do that, and I think I might be drinking too much coffee. We just make things too soft and create wiggle room for ourselves unnecessarily. But it's a lot of anxiety. And he did not say, okay. He didn't say, sure. He didn't say, let me think about it.
Or maybe.
Nothing. It was a definitive, solid, 100% yes. And I thought to myself, we can go to the moon and back with this. So I said, no promises, man. And say yes to anything that comes your way as far as talks. And what are we, 2.5 years later?
Yeah.
And dude has lived up to his side of the bargain, which is 5 minutes before you hit play, we're talking about a podcast that he's going to be going on. He's probably done 20, 25 podcasts, 30 presentations that I've been with him for. And it was one of the most no-brainer things that I've ever been a part of was just giving him a little bit of structure and dude, you're built for this.
Yeah.
Encouragement, and look what he's doing now. He touches people. It's one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I agree.
all the way through. It's a quite literally a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And just on a personal level, man, you turned into one of my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got something going on. There's not many people I'm going to call due to the professional position that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the head coach of vocabulary and lifted. We've got about 100, almost 125 certified coaches, and that is what it is for me. And so, if I got something going on, man, there's a handful of people I'll call just to get it off my chest, and he's one of them. You know, what am I going to tell you that you haven't heard in some form or fashion? So, it's been a win-win watching him crush talks and give people. It's very similar in one sense to psychedelics.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the presentations that you and I have gone to have been mostly white professional audiences. So Paris comes in his chair with an extremely different background. Most people have not been shot 4 times in the chest. Is that accurate to say?
That's very accurate.
That's very accurate to say.
Yeah.
And so it gives them a second opinion on reality, just like a strong dose of mushrooms, which is what we were talking about a hot second ago. And I find the presentation game, the ability to tell a story, to take an audience on a ride with my words. I find that fascinating. And I also very much appreciate watching other students of the game work their magic. And, as they say in the fight game, styles make fights. I have a style. So does he. And it's just chit-chatting on that note. What's it like getting off stage, man?
Off stage?
Yeah, once you're done, you deliver the presentation.
I'm hyped. I'm stoked. It's like a high that I've been searching for all my life. And I've used different types of drugs to find it, and I never found it until after I've done a presentation. And it lasts for days. I'd be hyped for days behind.
I know. I mean, being an artist, and just getting off the stage, and and seeing people come up to you and say, believe me, I'm with you on that, brother.
Yeah, because before the presentation, sometimes self-doubt kicks in. Like, am I going to be worthy enough? Am I going to do a good job? Are they going to like me? Right? And then once I get on and I get to going into my presentation, then I can look out in the audience, and by their response, it gives me the motivation to keep going and to keep doing better. Yes. And then afterwards, like all that time that I put in, it paid off. Because the fear was set in, and it would make me want to self-doubt myself, and it would try to tell me not to do it, not to go. And it really only sets in that day, like that morning.
Butterflies.
Yeah. Yes. and it was scary. So what it do? It gives me the strength to be in my mind say, okay, this is only fear. Right? Let me push through this. Let me see if I'm strong enough, if I got enough courage, right, to defeat my fear. And then once I do it, and I get all the love and the applause, that comes with, because I put work in, and I get the reaction that I was looking for. I'm like, thank you.
It's funny you say that, because I used to. There was this Bob Marley song called "Dubby Conquer." I'm talking about dubbies like evil spirits, and that's what they call them in Jamaica. And I used to, before I got on stage, the butterflies would hit me, and I always have to repeat that mantra: "I'm a Dubby Conqueror. I'm a Dubby Conqueror." over
Yeah.
our head to defeat, you know what I'm saying,
Yes.
that
Yes.
fear, you know what I'm saying? If, you know, that was, you know, when
And-
I first started, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sort of the same way because I put my headphones on and I have two songs. There's one by Mariah Carey and it's called The Hero.
Yeah,
And then I have another one by Eminem. It's called Lose Yourself.
Yeah, I know them both.
Right? And I put those on, and the Eminem song give me hype.
I know.
Right? You only got one chance. Do
One
not
chance.
miss your chance to blow, because opportunity may come once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I use that as this may be the only chance I ever get.
Yeah.
Right? So I cannot, you know, I can't use this to blow. I got to go as hard as I can. Yeah.
I agree, man. I agree. Yeah, it's real interesting because I haven't talked to Mark. We just actually reconnected some time ago on Facebook. But one thing is interesting, and I think that kind of puts both of you apart. But you know, kind of Paris, what you went through, obviously separates you apart too. But in addition, what Mark went through, as far as spending a lot of time across seas and growing up in other cultures, that sets him apart by pretty much, I would say, honestly, 97% of, especially, not only people in general, but especially white people. You know what I'm saying? You know, maybe even 99%, because I can't think of anybody else that has lived your story and learned so much and dealt with all you dealt with, not even being in America. You know what I'm saying? So could you kind of elaborate on that?
Happy to. That moving overseas was one of the smartest things I've ever done for myself. I thought I was a tough guy in high school and college. Zoe mentioned it. We wrestled together, and then I got into MMA in the late '90s and competed a little bit, and moved over to Thailand, 2002. You got to practice my skills in the motherland, and then come back, and then keep on going. That's totally not what happened. I moved over there. I was going to go for a year. Jacked my knee up for a second time. And I was on the operating table 6 months in. Dude, talk about the darkness descending. I created such an elaborate victim mentality in my mind, in my imagination, of a victim story about what happened to me and how it was so wrong, and I used it as evidence, proof to aggregate my greatest fear about myself, which was that I was not good enough, or that I was doomed to fail, or that there was something wrong with me. Those are all three similar flavors of the same thing. And I was talking about the specifics, this exact thing a few days ago on a call with one of our coaches. I had a little reputation here back in Richmond with my friends and that I went to high school with, and everybody else that I knew was from the MMA gym. And there wasn't a shit chance in hell that I was coming back to Virginia and not be that same person. I was big time addicted to that tough guy identity, which I'm not a tough guy. I figured that one out real fast. And so I stayed over there. And I ended up living in Thailand for a decade, man. I lived in Bangkok for 5 years, and then on an island in the Gulf of Thailand for another 5. Did a year and a half in Ecuador, and became very comfortable being the odd guy out, the odd person out. And I didn't know I was doing it at the time, or I didn't do it to do it. And I put myself in situations where I was the only white person, and my Thai, as far as the language, was basic, super basic. I create, shout out to Fairtex, man. I love Fairtex boxing equipment. I use them all through my training, and I messaged their HQs in Bangkok, and I messaged them in 2004 and said, hey, I've used your equipment my whole career, love y'all, and I'm doing a sports program for kids in Klong Toy, which is the largest slum in Bangkok. I said, would you sponsor us? Dude, I got an email from them the next day saying, what do you want? And I told them what I wanted, and which was about $3,000 of pads and gloves and shin guards. Dude, they sent that right over, man. And so, just going down in those slums. I mean, literally, there was 100,000 people in a square kilometer. And when I mean they're corrugated shacks, dude, with open sewers on the stray dog. It's a circus down there. And everybody was really cool. Yeah. So I'd go down there and they'd look at me weird because what's this white person doing in our hood? And I felt extremely safe. I had a great time down with those kids. I did that for a couple of years. And so it snapped me out of the spell of normality. I recommend it for anyone. Yeah. Traveling is a little bit funky these days, especially if we get vaccine cards, travel cards, and 10% of the population of the United States has passports, or should I say only 10%?
Only 10%.
You want to get I really like those words, a second opinion on reality. Go travel. Go travel and go travel somewhere exotic. And I triple dog dare you to do it by yourself and stay over there for a while and let some things sink in and let some things seep out.
Yeah. See, and it's interesting because, like Paris, we both know, like how he talks about being a foreigner. Because even us being black in Richmond or even America, it's like we foreigners.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let me ask you this. So, was there ever a time when you made the connection between everything that in this whole dealing with systematic racism, everything that's been put on you as a black person? What was your aha moment and you actually realized that you were set up to pretty much fail by the system?
I would have to say my aha moment came in prison. And it was my third trip to prison. This was in the federal. And I was going to the child hall. And as I was going in, I just stopped. And I saw like a line going to eat and some coming from the child hall. And it was predominantly, probably in that institution, 90% black. Old, young, middle-aged, and they were happy. And a lot of them was in there for 20, 30 years for non-violent offenses. And it dawned on me, like, what you've been trying to do all this time. The system is not set up for you to win. Not at that. Right? So what I had to do, I had to sit back and then I heard this, keep it moving. And when I looked back, it was a heavy-set correction officer over me telling me I can't stop. Like, I had to get in this line, and the line looked like it was cattle going to slaughter. Right? And right then and there, I say, if I don't change the way I think, then nothing would all stay the same. You know, and it came to a point where I was laying in bed or on the bunk, and I was in Texas, at the time. But my mind, they said I was daydreaming. Right? I was laying on the bunk, and I was here in Richmond, Virginia, and I was with my friends, and I was laughing, and I was joking, and I can remember a guy coming over there and shaking me and saying, "Come back, man, you was out there." And I was like, "Yeah, I was.
You were.
I was out there." And at that point, it dawned on me, like, they can lock my body up, but they can't lock my mind up. Like, they can't lock my spirit up. They can put my body in a box, but they cannot do that with my mind and with my spirit. And that's when my concept of God started to change, right? And I was looking at, and I kept thinking about that and looking at that episode of me just laying on that bunk, right? And how I was so free, and how I was able to move outside of my body just with the thought of my mind. And that like freed a lot of things up, because at one time, like, God, it was had a certain face, was a certain being, right? And then I just became to believe, like, God could be for me whatever I choose him to be in my imagination at that particular time, you know. And if they cannot box up my mind, then there has to be a connection spiritually to God, and that's what I need to find. Because all those years that I was incarcerated, I've always searched for God. I've always tried to form whatever it be with Christians or Muslims, you know, whatever the case may have been. I went and I searched so I could try to find a better way or get a better connection, because it was always something in me that led me back to being incarcerated, and I wanted to figure out, like, is something wrong with me? Like, am I like retarded or something? Why I keep doing the same thing over and over again? And so I was always trying to get a connection to God. I just didn't know, like, the avenue to go that was best for me. And once I figured that I'm more connected to the universe, right, and I have a spiritual connection to the universe, then the concept of God became more clear, and then I became more clear as to what I really am and who I really am.
Question for you, Mark, because I know how you talk about you in a dark place. Okay. Could you talk about your realization of the dark place, you accepting it, and then you getting out of it, and how that all flowed?
Well, I knew I was hating life, as in my life. That was not a news flash. What did give me a little bit of a jolt was when I realized I hadn't laughed in a year. I hadn't laughed in an entire year. And if somebody says, well, guess what? You didn't really smile much in that year either. Like break into a legit, authentic, warm smile about anything, I'd believe them. And I thought to myself, well, Mr. Smarty Pants, what happens if you keep doing this? What happens if, am I going to be a 55, I was 20, mid-20s at the time. Am I going to be 55 years old still complaining about, bitching about, bitter about this dream of being a fighter? And if I am, what does that look like? And I took a good look at what that version of me looked like. I said anything but that. Anything but that. And that's when I started looking into alternative all kinds of shit. Which started, I was living in Bangkok at the time. I was teaching elementary school PE. I had 4 months paid vacation. That was pretty cool. It started with me going down to this spa, this resort, this cleansing and detox resort called the Spa. It's called the Spa, and you go and you pay to not eat for 7 days, and you take these detox pills, and you get in the steam room and just really wring yourself out. And people, most people were down there for weight loss, or they needed a break from their stressful life. There was a lot of professionals from the UK and Australia and Singapore and Hong Kong. There were some backpackers coming through too. It was a very eclectic group of people that were all there doing a very strange thing for different reasons. And so you'd be sitting at the table in shorts and a t-shirt with somebody who just graduated college who was backpacking for 9 months, a CEO of a marketing agency from Munich, and somebody who's trying to kick the booze from God knows where in the UK, and it was this hodgepodge of out of the box people, albeit mostly professional. And I left feeling just slightly better about my life, and that's all I needed. So I'm going back. And I kept going. And one night, 2000 and late 2003, I went to an emotional detox seminar. Guess what they were talking about? Identity. They were talking about stories. They were talking about language. I watched this guy walk this woman through. It was a legit bad breakup, and she went through it 3 times, and each time he adjusted some of the language, and she went from making it about her, taking it personally, to making it more about the guy's actions, and in that reframing or that translation, she let out some emotions and was able to change her mind pretty quickly. And when I mean pretty quickly, I mean within 10 minutes. Before, she was pissed, crying, and at the end she was like, well, that really wasn't going to work out. That guy was actually pretty weird. And I saw that and I said, that's not my story, but that's my story. And that is a before and after moment for me, that particular seminar. Got up from the workshop and went straight to the internet cafe and downloaded an 80-page manual about how to do this particular style of story work on myself, and kept going with it. I ended up moving back down to that same spa January 17th, 2007, and put my poster up, and that's the day I went pro. And I've been somewhere between full-time and overtime in the how our language influences us for better and for worse game ever since. So, 14 years in next month on the 17th. And this is, after doing it for 10 years, I've had 2 loves. The first one was fighting. The first time I ever got choked out, we wrestled, and okay, fine. I just pinned this guy, or you just pinned me. Cool, you got me. Choking somebody, on the other hand, that is a completely different thing. It's a completely different animal. The first time I got choked, I blacked out, and the guy I came to, and I was like, oh my. Hooked. And then, story work. There's just, we all got different attractions, as smart people understand. Attraction's not a choice. You're attracted to somebody, you can't think your way out of that one. Okay? It just is what it is. And this, for me, it captured my attention from the first time that I saw it, and it has held my attention the whole way through. So I'm a terrible student. I'm a horrible, terrible student, disruptive, disorganized, don't give a rat's ass about it, unless I'm interested in the whole thing. Which, I mean, how many students have gotten out of school thinking they're stupid simply because the curriculum, they had zero desire to learn. It meant nothing to them. They saw no reason to learn, and then where am I going to apply this in my life? You know, you find something that interests you though, quadruple down on that. That's very simple advice, and it's also very real. You know, Paris and I are both students of the game when it comes to presenting, and that's the main through line with our relationship. You know, we talk about that almost every time we get together. You know, talk about preparation or a moment on the stage when something happened. You just take it, you go with it.
But you know, when we have our deepest conversation is when we have made plans to go somewhere, and then we sit out in the parking lot in the truck for like an hour before we even go inside and just talk. And the thing that I like about Mark is, by him coming from a white perspective, right, I get to see or hear another side of it, and I don't judge, right? And he do the same with me. He get to hear my perspective coming from a black man, and he don't judge. And we can talk about anything. And sometimes what he says amazes me. Sometimes I don't agree with it, right? But I respect him enough to respect his opinion, right? And I get to, and it opened me up because by me saying becoming more spiritually inclined with myself, I've become more open-minded. Right? And I'm free now where I can listen to somebody else's side of the story without either trying to force mine in or coming up with a judgment of that person. Right? I just, man, it'd be funny how we'll pull up somewhere and we'll sit out there and we'll just talk and and we'll finally go inside. And we didn't say anything we had to say in the truck, so now we just go and eat. You know?
Go in and eat, or go in and deliver a presentation, or just whatever we're doing. I told someone recently that I was doing this podcast with you all. I'm like, both these dudes are black, and both of these dudes did not like going down Monument Avenue. And the person was like, really? And they were. It surprised me. And I thought in my mind, I understand how they're surprised.
Exactly.
Okay, I understand the story that leads to the surprise, and I also understand y'all's story about why that street, y'all don't like that street.
I think it's interesting, and that's the main point I was saying, is that once you have the experiences, other people's experiences, especially, you know, even in a place like a healing place, like we talked about earlier about starting to see that you are hurt and being able to share that with other people around you by just sharing, like in the different different classes and stuff, or even being able to be around the world and experience different people. You know, that's one of the biggest things that I realize is that the more and more we're interacted together as humans on a human level, the way that you see what's happening right now. You know what I'm saying? Because we white, black, whatever the case may be, but we all relate on a human level. You know what I mean? And that's a key situation. That's a key thing that a lot of people, because they don't travel, because they stay in their bubbles, you know what I'm saying? They just don't get it. And that's why another reason why there's so much. Me and Mark were talking about earlier about America and how it's so divided. You know, it's because we only have a certain. We don't hear enough of each other's stories.
Right.
And have a common passion to connect with, lay the foundation for us to talk about whatever, whether we agree with it or not. And I said this, you know, when we were here last time, Zoe, and you and I were behind the camera. I have, and I'm so thankful for it. I look for that spark in people's eyes, that aliveness. You know, whether they're white, or they're black, or they're Thai, or they're Ecuadorian. I have zero loyalty to white people on a whole. If Paris says, "Hey, dude, I got a bunch of skinheads outside my house," I'll be like, "I'm coming with my Mossberg 930 Tech," and they're getting it.
And I know he will.
Yeah, I know he will.
Yeah.
I thought you'd go with another choice, but okay. Mossberg it is, okay.
Mossberg it is. And that, be selective. That's why identity politics, that's why I got to gripe with it, man. You know, I'm white, so I have to act a certain way because I'm white. Or you're black, and you gotta, if you don't act these certain ways, then you're not really black. Really?
Yeah. You don't vote for Biden, you ain't black, right?
Sure. Exactly. Who says that kind of thing?
Yeah, I know, right?
You know? That.
Yeah.
It stifles, it puts a glass ceiling on individuals' ability to explore and express their individuality because it's groupthink.
Yeah, groupthink. That's it.
And the way that Paris describes, we're both completely in the same camp about individual exploration and expression. Is that fair to say?
Fair.
That's fair to say. And the way he describes exploring individuality and connection to source is different than the way I do it.
Yeah.
And I love listening to how I listen to all his podcasts, and I learn something new every time. You are a master of it because you went there. You went there, and you know you went there, and everybody that hears you talk knows that you went there. You can't buy that. You can't get a degree in it. It's street cred on
The highest level.
it's the highest level street cred. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt, tattoo, and the watch,
And the scars.
and the scars.
Yep, and the scars.
And I would like to say that a lot of people get their perception of people from the news media.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right. And because growing up, I didn't grow up around white people. So I've always had a perception of them from what I heard and what I saw on television. Right. And once I got to Roanoke, Virginia, and I met some good white people. Right. At first I was kind of skeptical of them. And once I got to really know them, they became real good friends of mine down there. They helped me through a hard time down there, you know. And I was like, damn, all white people aren't the same, just like all black people aren't the same. Right? And sometimes the perception or how I perceive a person to be is because I got it off the television.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they only show a small majority or a minority of people on there, and that's not like damn all of them like that.
Or the worst part.
Yeah. Or you know, like my perception is only time white people came in my neighborhood was the police, and they was coming to. They wasn't coming to make anything better. They was coming to take people away, take fathers away, take mothers away. You know, lock people up. Beat people up, you know. So that was my perception, like, you know. And then once I got into learning and getting to, you know, in relationships with them, we're pretty much the same.
Yeah. One of my biggest things, just kind of piggyback off Mark was saying about the travel, because I was like in the book I talk about how I thought everybody, all white people were the same because of TV and through my experience, you know. But the more I traveled out and met different people, the more I started realizing that everybody wasn't like they were back in the Midlothian.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it confused the hell out of me for a minute. You know, I ain't gonna front. I was just like, wait, you don't think that way? You know what I'm saying? Because all I knew was southern, the South, southern. You know, on each side of just. But one of the things that one of the things that really has got a hold of me when it just comes to people, you know, and I'm gonna use the Matrix, the movie, the Matrix as an example, you know, because the ones of us that get it, regardless of what color you are, whatever case may be, we get it, and we live outside it. You know, we're the ones partying in Zion.
Yeah.
All of us, no matter what color you are, no matter what the case may be, you know, we're the ones partying in Zion. Once the empire falls, you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
and we're the ones also skeptical of the people that are agents inside of the Matrix. You know what I mean? That's the way that I see. That's my best analogy of me dealing with people. Good folks gonna show you that they're good, and your experience will your experience, your personal experience, will let you will indicate that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to, you know, the vast majority, like you were saying, groupthink, most people are under groupthink, and groupthink has been fueled by that television.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I definitely agree.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, that twisting things up a little bit. Mark and I know we talk a lot about in the past dealing with psychedelics. Okay, could you kind of talk about how they assisted you? Because I just told you I just saw that documentary on that people that were having trials over in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
and how, you know, they documented just the change from smaller grams to bigger grams, but they were going through it. Could you kind of talk about like how it helped you to get to where you are, your breakthrough?
A podcast, the same podcast that I recommended to you before
Yeah.
we started filming. This is a good entry point to it. Joe Rogan, I believe it's the second time Paul Stamets was on his podcast.
Mhm.
Paul Stamets from Fungi Perspective. He's an expert in the field of mycology.
Mm-hmm.
And they referenced a study where once someone had a strong psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms,
Mhm.
psychedelic mushrooms,
Mhm.
once someone had, and someone being a male,
Mm-hmm.
they were 50% less likely to commit an act of domestic violence. Those are pretty interesting numbers. So myself, I have had some experience with psychedelic substances.
Mm-hmm.
The couple of chapters, one of them was, this is an interesting substance, ghrelin, was when I first got down to the island Koh Samui in the Gulf of Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say most people, some people in high school would drink beer and take some mushrooms and go to a concert and see the whole thing. And I thought that's what it was all about. I was like, okay, cool, yeah, and I had zero attraction to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I get down to Koh Samui, and it's just characters, man. The hypnotherapist pulls me aside and says, "Hey, we're going to the elephant farm because it was monsoon season."
Mm.
And he's like, "You want to come?" I'm like, "What are we doing?" "We're getting magic mushrooms." I'm like, "Really? At the elephant farm?" He's like, "Yeah." So we go, and guess what elephants do? Take big poops, lots of them, all day long. So they would take the elephant dung and throw it out in the jungle. Guess what grows on dung?
Yeah.
Mushrooms. Dude, we go into the jungle and come out, and I mean, seriously, you come around the corner, it's crazy shit, dude. You come around the corner, and the entire size of this apartment would be covered with massive cubensis mushrooms. Caps this big, stems this big, and just like you go to 7-Eleven, you get a couple of plastic bags. I'd come out a number of times. I'd come out with two bags, 5 pounds each, driving back to the thing like, oh, I hope the cops don't. And so, dude, we had mushroom everything. And I was dating this Russian woman who was extremely talented in the kitchen, and she made mushroom pasta sauce and dried, and they put them in tea. And the best trip that I ever had, again, second opinion on reality. You take 5+ grams of mushrooms, and the way this thing looks and feels, it's going to change big time. And came around the corner, and it was the grand happy hour. It was a mushroom that it was about the size of a tennis ball. The cap had not opened up. The stem was about that big around. Plucked it, took it, went home, waited. It was 5 grams. It's just that one mushroom. Wet. I turned it into tea. Drank the tea. And turned off the lights, burned some incense. And this might sound weird as anything, and, well, because it was. I went into the pain body of the women in my family.
That sounds about right.
Dude, my mother's pain. And the whole time I was just laying on my back. It didn't matter my eyes open or closed. This thing's, the whole thing is just, you're in a different.
Yeah.
And I would just nod at it. I would just nod at it, acknowledge, and my body would take a big breath on its own and let something out, and tears would stream down my face. And my sister and I haven't spoken in years currently, and I went into what she was feeling about herself, and I came out and I was quiet. I was quiet in my mind. It was damn near silent. Most people, the language game helps with the static, the noise, the chaos, the circus. Truth be told, it helps a ton. And psychedelics gave me that. It gave me that experience of stillness inside my being, and that's something that is going to be really hard to cultivate in a short amount of time for people. Most people, the average life, the average 9 to 5, the mortgage and the 2.5 kids in the house, there's so many moving parts to people's lives that they rarely get that that gift of silence. Yeah. And that's something that, and 80% of my journeys are dark. Yeah. Okay. It brings up a lot of my shadow. And having said that, that's quite the thing to give yourself. And I only ever recommend. I'm by no means an expert in this area. One of my colleagues called me a one-trick pony, which I really like. He's like, you're a one-trick pony with the language. It's the only thing that I am qualified to talk about is language and story. So I'm speaking just from a personal experience. I only recommend psychedelics to someone if they are called to it, if they are pulled to it. Someone says, yeah, okay, that's weird and interesting, and nah, not for me. Cool. Tell me more. That's interesting. Where do I go? Great. Listen to some of these podcasts. There's a lot of people talking about this stuff now, man. There's a lot, and it's decriminalized now in Oregon and Colorado, and I was in Denver last year and driving down there's a big billboard on the highway talking about psychologists, professional facilitated psilocybin journeys, therapeutic facilitated journeys with credentialed psychologists.
Yes, yeah.
Call this number.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, they're alleviating a lot of veterans PTSD.
Yeah, exactly.
With
exactly.
Look up MAPS.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, because even my personal experience, I know this because of, like me and Paris were talking about before, and almost every any black person in America has PTSD. They might not realize it, that has experienced this place for what it is. That's just the case. I didn't realize it later on, like I told you earlier. When I got I saw the symptoms from other people, but things like shrooms, they specifically, they can stop the depression, flashbacks. There's so many. I didn't know anybody. In all honesty, I didn't know much about this all till the brother Baba Kalindi came down and did a lecture down in Atlanta, and he opened my eyes. I just didn't realize how old they are, how they're pretty much alien, and in addition, how long people of African descent have been using it. You know what I mean? I didn't know, and all the other things like that. I didn't know that till recently. So it was new to me. He was showing me pictures in the lecture in Egypt, ancient Egypt. They got fat caps all over the place. They fit, So I definitely feel you on that aspect, and I'm happy you were able to use that to, as therapy to get you out of them dark places, because I know it was called to you, and obviously, it definitely helped. Now, kind of talking about Paris, like we were talking about. In addition to you seeing that all this was the system was against you, what were the type of tools that you were introduced to, books or movies, whatever the case may be, that kind of made you sort of realize, they give you the insight of the mechanics of it. You know what I mean?
I could easily. That was a book by Michelle Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called The New Jim Crow Era, of the era of mass incarceration. And that book opened my eyes up on so many different levels. Right? About far as even with the music industry, and how certain, like the three major companies, Sony, Paramount, and I forgot the other one, but how they are the biggest benefactors from private prisons. Right. And I was like, what? It was like, yeah, and look what they've done. They've taken all the old heads out of the rap game and put in young heads, right? That's all about the bling and all about the guns and the tricking and the blowing money fast and growing up in poverty, and how they're using those rappers, right, to get a mass of followers, using the followers to go off what the rappers saying and putting those followers in custody. Yeah, and how like the prison system, like they're building up. Everywhere you look, they're building up new prisons, and it's not for the oldest; it's for the next generation that come along. Right? It's for my sons and my grandsons and their sons, and I had to take a look at that, and I was like, dang, this actually makes sense. Like why? Where are all the old rappers? Rap wasn't built on talking about that. It was all about uplifting. It was all about going to school. It was all about spirituality. What happened to all those? It was a design that they got placed out of the way. It was a design that gangster rap came into a place, at a particular time. And how now all of a sudden that's all you hear. Every time, even on the radio now, they say the word bitches and hoes. And I'm like, damn, they couldn't even say those words on records at one time. Now, nigger. You know what I'm saying? Now it's like just come out so fluidly and effortless now. And I had to take a look at that.
you know, as well. And I also had to take a look at like the part I played in. You know, I played a major part because I got caught up in that. You know, I got caught up in the hip hop lyric of that generation, you know, or the Scarface generation. You know, I was caught up deep in it, and I went head first in it, right? And I just realized, man, that where were the role models?
Yeah.
Right? Where were my role models? You know, because at a particular time they went from being football players and basketball players to being drug dealers and gangsters. You know, so I was like, somebody has to be a role model out there. Somebody has to be the one to show somebody that it can be done. It don't have to be done on that level.
Yeah.
Right. You know, so like for now, that's why I go in the jails and I go to the detention center and I go back to hospital because, you know, I want to be the one that inspire and motivate somebody that just need a little bit of push, right? Or need some type of where they can see that is being done, you know.
Hey, because we were all here last time, remember Mark and I were talking, and we were talking about, Mark was talking about how him growing up, seeing how generational wealth was just pretty much a norm, right? As far as in the white society, and in the contrast, our norm is everything that's presented to us, you know, is what you just described, literally. You know what I mean? And just think of the contrast, and just think about, you know, the effects that has on generations as well, you know. But let me ask you this question. When did you realize that you were important enough for this system to be put on you like this? You understand what I'm saying? When did the light bulb come on? You're like, they must be doing this for this reason. And can you talk about that and how you came to that conclusion?
Most of my incarceration, I pretty much dealt with the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
You know, so they always, you know, gave me an insight onto the United States of America government, right? And it was all facts.
Yeah.
And it went back from, you know, not slavery, but it went back to Egypt or Kemet, right? And a lot of us never even got the full idea other than slavery about our origins, right? So I had to take it back further than us finally coming over here in the what they call it, the
transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah, the transatlantic slave trade. And once I done that, I started realizing that I had more potential. Like I wasn't brought up like some people will interpret certain parts of the Bible as Ham and the son of what's come to be the slave to them. But you know that wasn't my reality.
Canaan.
That wasn't my reality, right? You know, that's fictional. You know, so you know, I just had to buckle down and just start reading. Just start reading. Just get as much information as I can, because I know also that I wanted to be able, when somebody tried to pull the wool over my eye, I wanted to be able to let them know, no, you're not talking to a dummy, right? I know my history, right? Exactly. And I know some of yours as well, you know, so you can't just tell me no any fucking thing and get me to believe in that, right? Because I've supplied myself with the truth.
The right knowledge.
Right? Right there, and that's what it is, right? And all I had to learn was, they talk about wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right? But it's a tool that come with that I didn't know how to use, and that was to apply. I didn't know how to apply, right? I had it all, and with having it all, it was useless if I didn't know how to apply, right? So once I learned how to apply, like, and I started with self first, right? I had to learn how to govern myself, right, without being fenced, incarcerated, or in a mental institution or somewhere out in society. Then, you know, like my life had started to change. And like what Mark was talking about, like coming from a dark place, like when my mother passed away, and I was in the hospital, suffering from 4 gunshots, you know, to my chest, you know, and I had lost everything. You know, like my mother was the only one that I knew that would actually be there no matter what, and that was taken from me. And I'm sitting in this hospital, and like I gave this analogy I was talking about this last time about when that fly was on my face, and I didn't have I couldn't even fight off the fly. It just walked around my face, all in my nose and in my mouth, because I was paralyzed from the neck down, and I couldn't defend myself against a fly. Like that was a dark place for me, right? And having it. When people say they lost it all, and I tell them, you just lost some of it. Right? Let me tell you about losing it all, right? And when I could tell them my story and how I've come back and I've overcame the obstacles, you know, in situations that presented itself, because I told myself like that I was going to at least try. And some days waking up and not getting any. Like I didn't see any growth in it. For weeks I didn't see any growth, and I wanted to tell myself, all right, it's not going to work. Like just go ahead, quit, just give up now, and just go ahead on suffer the consequences from what life has dealt you and what other people say, you know, you deserve. You know, just go ahead on, lay in this hospital bed and die. And when the doctors and the nurses and all was telling me that this was like my future for the rest of my life, you know, at 20-some years old, you know, that was a dark place. That was a real dark place. You know, I was homicidal, suicidal, I was mad, you know, I was angry at the world, I was angry at myself, I was angry at God, I was angry at my mother, you know, and I just, man.
It's the greatest turnaround story of anyone that I know personally.
Yeah, it took work.
Period.
It took a lot of tears. It took a lot of strength. You know, it took a lot of self-talk. It took a lot of me overcoming the doubt and the fear, you know, and the future. Because I didn't know that I was going to really be able to get out the bed by myself. Again, I didn't think I was going to be, well, I didn't know at that time that I was going to be able to provide for myself, you know, take care of myself, get in another level relationship with another female, you know, because I was young. It was physical at that time, you know, it wasn't no spiritual thing or no mental thing, or, you know, and all, you know, I was like, man, I'm not going to ever be able to get in a relationship. You know, and as a black male, or as a male, period, right? Our ego, and we are more physical, you know, so everything falls on a physical level. But then once I started working on certain areas and doing certain things, then other things started to come along.
It's interesting because I showed Mark a clip of these white people I've known, friends that I've known almost technically my whole life here in Oregon, and this lady was bugging. Right, she was bugging, right? And I was talking to Mark because they were hiking on a trail, and the lady had a mask on, yelling at a lady behind her that was just trying to walk. You know what I'm saying?
Who didn't have a mask on?
You know, of course they're out in Portland, Oregon, hiking, right? You know, before Mark and I always talk about how Mike. I've Mark previously. I said, why do you think you see all this stuff like with the Karens and all these white folks interacting a certain way? He said to me that because they don't have much emotional endurance. You know, Mark, please tell the people. You know what I'm saying? Could you elaborate on that, because I can't do it as good as you did? Because please talk about the emotional endurance and what we're seeing in society today, an example like that?
Emotional endurance is directly correlated to how well people breathe. And when someone's breathing, when someone has talked themselves into a certain kind of story, a version of the victim mentality, which is absolutely a practice and a habit. We create that for ourselves with certain subsets of the English language, and it is very stressful. I feel very comfortable saying that, to see yourself as a victim in any circumstance. And when we go into these stress responses, our breathing, it gets trapped in our upper chest. And when someone's breathing is trapped in their upper chest, first and foremost, that's a very uncomfortable place to reside. Okay, for yourself. Good luck trying to have a comfortable, relaxed relationship or conversation with someone when you're all tense and tight. We've all been out on dates with people where, maybe it was myself or the other person or both of us are all nervous, and it's just stiff. Also had conversations or been out on dates, experiences with people where everybody's breathing well. Okay, the conversation flows. It feels good to be around the person in proximity. Correct? And when someone their breathing mechanics we're known, vocabulary and lifted, yes, true, fact, look it up. We're known as the language guys. Okay? We could be known as the language and the breathing guys. Because we talk about it on every podcast, every class I teach, every group of students I certify. We talk about what we say, what we think, and how well we breathe. And most people's language is wrecked, it's working against them, and in turn, their breath is trapped. So, back to emotional endurance. When someone's breathing is stuck in their upper chest, they're touchy. They're on edge. The slightest thing sets them off. There's ways that we talk about this, and we saw that in that video clip. I guarantee that woman was just all tense and tight, and then one thing just set her off. If someone we're not taking time, if someone invests a little bit of their time and they contemplate, they consider how the story that they're telling themselves, we're all doing it, and what would change if they changed up some of that story, some of that language. We will relax more into our bodies. First and foremost, feel better in ourselves, okay, comfortable in our skin, and then it's so much easier to listen to other people. You gift that sense of ease to other people. I enjoy fluid, constructive, thought-provoking conversations. And I only have that when I'm breathing well. When I'm trapped, when my breathing is trapped in my chest, I'm thinking about the next thing that I'm going to say. My listening skills go down. Look up amygdala hijack. Amygdala hijack. I believe it was Daniel Goldman, psychologist, psychiatrist. That term has been around for a number of decades. And when has there ever been a better time to have good listening skills? As in now. Now is a great time to develop that skill because it's totally a skill. And the more emotional endurance you have, the more, say you own your own business, or like we were driving over here and you were talking to someone about a project. The people that I talk to the students about this a lot. There's a very simple formula for success. It's the enlifted formula for success is start and keep going. That's it. Anything anyone has gotten good at over a long period, you got to start, and then you got to keep going. You got to keep going, and you need gas in the tank to deal with the inevitable curveballs, to keep showing up when the sun's shining, when it's raining, when you don't feel like doing it, when you do feel like doing it.
So, prime example, and I think that you are a good person to elaborate on this more. Coming from an atypical person from Midlothian that just stayed in Midlothian, and they lived in that box in their bubble, right? A curveball comes up to them, right? Right. They've had
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, they had a limited amount of obstruction in their life, so more than likely they're going to swing and miss on that curveball, right? As opposed to somebody, same person came in Midlothian, white person, that has traveled the world and has adversity put in them. That curveball comes, they're more likely at least fouled off or get a single, you know what I'm saying, or even hit a home run.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I see personally, like when I look at like how somebody, as Richard Spencer said, likes to bathe in white privilege, as opposed to somebody that takes advantage of that fully, and that lives and takes advantage of it fully, and has obstruction coming to them, and having everything you just talked about, not breathing right, not able to think right, because this obstruction, you know, in the end result is an outlash, like we saw in the video. You know what I mean? Like when we see the Karens acting all crazy, and all these people acting crazy over the smallest things, as opposed
taking it personally.
Taking it personally, as opposed to the exact opposite, that somebody's been in that situation and they have enough emotional endurance. You know what I'm saying, to handle the situation.
Exactly. It's just like going to the gym.
Yeah.
You know, how much stronger are you? Dude won a bodybuilding contest. How much stronger are you now than when you first started working out?
Much stronger.
Much stronger. Guess what? How much better are you at martial arts, Zoe, now than when you first started?
Much better.
A lot.
Yeah.
Listening is a skill. It's the same thing.
It just seems like to me, and that's a perfect analogy, because it seems like to me a lot of people don't even get in the gym to build emotional endurance.
They don't have the know-how, and they don't have the know-to.
Yeah.
We're not taught this in school.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. I didn't have one course, class, or conversation coming up through a well-to-do public school system, or when I got my degree in education, about how my language influences how I see myself and feel about myself, for better and for worse. And if someone has the privilege, we'll talk about privilege, if someone has the privilege of being able to think and speak, then you got plenty.
Yeah.
Those are gifts. And we can talk ourselves out of opportunity just as easily as talking ourselves into opportunity.
That's true.
And when someone says, it's just language, it doesn't really matter what you say or how you say it, I'm like, okay, cool. I come back with two responses. First one is, okay, cool. So it only matters how you say what you say, not what you say. So the next time that you see your employer, okay, a manager, go up to them and tell them in the sweetest, nicest tone possible, I've never respected you. You're a horrible dresser, and you walk funny. But just be really sweet about it. And let me know 6 months how things are going. Okay, that's one. The other one is, hey, dude, you ever talked yourself into a bad mood? Yeah, we've all done it. You ever talked yourself into a good mood? Yeah, we've all done it. Did you use the same words? No. No, it's a different.
No way.
It's a different series of words. It's a different spell. Webster's definition of a spell is a word or a combination of words of great influence. And I'm screwed. Nothing ever works out for me. Why should I even try? Is a combination of words that greatly influences me. Also, on the other side of this, that is a constrictive spell. It traps my breath, like I was talking about. It creates dense pressure on me energetically. and I trap myself in my imagination. I get focused, tunnel vision. I become problem focused, as opposed to other people have done this. I wonder if I could talk to someone who's started their own business. What would happen if I gave it a year of attention? That's also a combination of words that are going to influence me differently. It's going to relax me, get my breath more down into my abdomen where we're designed to breathe. We're supposed to breathe down here a majority of the time. People are not built, physiologically speaking, to walk around with shallow, trapped, labored breathing. Not at all. It actually, that right there, this is interesting. You talk about PTSD and how black people have PTSD in the United States. That comes from domestication. Okay, and that is also something that people in general, in the way we live our lives, suffer from. You take a little lap dog. Pay attention to this, folks. You ever seen a little lap dog that just sits there and shakes like that? That thing 1,000 years ago was a wolf. When an animal goes through a process of domestication, they lose their innate knowledge. It's an unconscious knowledge. Don't even have to think about it. You want proof on this? Look up trauma bear on YouTube. It's a video of a polar bear on the ice cap getting tagged. They tranquilize it, and then it goes through a stress response right then and there before it's out of the anesthesia. And its jaw is open, and it's shaking. It's getting the stress out of the system, and eventually the breath gets back down into the abdomen. Because it does that naturally because it's in the wild. Animals, which we are, over a period of domestication, we lose that ability to kick out that stress, and so that little lap dog just sits there and shakes. Anxiety is through the roof. Okay, it's not just because of COVID. This has been a long, ongoing process of domestication, and we have the ability. If you can think and you can talk, then you have the privilege and the ability to tell yourself a different story to yourself about yourself, and you can extricate yourself out of any situation. There's the proof. Okay, and guess what? If you really want to do it well, you've got to kick the collective consciousness goodbye, as in identity politics. Good luck trying to get however many millions of people to go in a direction. No, you go there first, and then there will be people that recognize that progress, and they will follow you. There's your tribe.
You know, going back to you, first off, shout out to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad,
Yes, sir.
Father Allah,
Yes,
5%, you know what I'm saying, FOI, and the NOI. But, you know, I even dealing to kind of bringing this all together on a more human level. You know, like I say, I tell people all the time, if this world knew true world history, because the books of Alexander, the Library of Alexander was burnt down 3 times, right?
Yeah.
If we all knew true, I'm not going to say history, I'm going to say our story, then racism would not be an issue.
Right.
Because people would see, like you said earlier, the lineage and the people that we came from. Like Professor James Small specifically says, like, you black people today, you're not who you used to be. You know what I'm saying? And Mark and I was talking about earlier, because Mark had asked me, you know, what are black people thinking about, you know, COVID and something like this. I was like, yo, black people waking up. You know what I'm saying? This is because it's that day and time, you know, astrologically, you know, the sun, you know, we're sun people. So the sun, I tell people, the sun is burping and farting right now. You know what I'm saying? The UV rays about to kick in that melanin, and, you know, we're making a transition because this is all cycles. But just to kind of, I guess we can kind of wrap it up. But if you had a message that you had to give, Paris, to that person on the other side of that text message that's laying, you know, that's going through that adversity, or anybody else in a certain situation, what would you tell them? What would you give them?
Never give up. Never give up. because it's the situation or the position you're in today don't have to be the same one tomorrow. Right? We're designed to make our own future. Right? And if you're going to give up today, then that's your future for tomorrow. Right? And like Mark said, we all have to start somewhere. Like some of us start with very little and make a lot. Like some of us, like me, had to start all over again from nothing to make what I have today. Right? So you never know until you try. You never give up on yourself. Nobody knows you or what you're capable of, and neither does you until you try. I just hope that the person that's going through trauma, that's going through situations or predicaments right now where life has given them the ultimate asshole reception, right? Is to keep trying, right? Never quit on yourself, because once you quit on yourself, you quit on life, and it's over with. It's a wrap. No one pushes or supposedly, right, pushes you as hard as you're supposed to push yourself. Right? No one betters you as hard as you better yourself. Right? And it all comes with how you think. If you think you're going to lose, most likely you will lose. But if you think you're going to win, right, then most likely you'll win. Right? They say quitters never
prosper.
Quitters never quit, and winners never lose, something like that. You know, and that category. But just you never know. Like I fuck around last summer and won a 3-point shootout competition. Right? 15, 16 other guys. I'm the only guy in the wheelchair. Right? With 1 minute. I won the 3-point shootout competition because I'm always active. I'm always trying to do stuff.
It's called showing up.
Yeah. You couldn't have done that if you didn't show up.
That's right.
Mark, in conclusion, kind of a small 2-part conclusion, I guess. Like I said earlier, I'm going to use this term loosely, but it fits. We are all conscious to this reality, you know what I mean, of our lives. You know, us in this room, that is. Okay. So, what would you say to not only the ones that are trying to get it, you know what I'm saying, get to where we are, you know what I mean, on a conscious level? What would you say, what type of advice would you give them on one end? And number 2 is, that lady that we saw, that white lady in the video we saw, what advice would you give her?
The advice that I would give her?
Yeah, the people that are trying to get the path of enlightenment, so to speak, and her, like kind of like a 2-part thing.
We'll focus on her. Dedicate 2021 to a breath practice. Okay. Get your breath out of your chest and into your abdomen, and you'll have a much longer fuse. And you'll take so many things less personally. You'll feel better about yourself. You'll sleep better. You'll take better shits. You'll be a better listener. I mean, life breathing well in your abdomen, that's fun. That's how can you even enjoy being yourself when you're all tight and locked up and breathing in your chest? She was not having fun. That's another important note. She was out on a walk in the woods in Oregon. It looked very pretty, and that woman was trapped in her mind. When the breathing is trapped in the chest, you're trapped in your mind, and when you're trapped in your mind, the breathing is trapped in the chest, and it sets up a satanic cycle. It's not even vicious. Satanic. Rudolf Steiner's definition of a Luciferian force is anything that seeks to constrict or control, and we have a Luciferian glitch in our language. For the first person, the people that would like to improve themselves in their life, pick up a pen and write down what you would like to do. As in, take a dream and turn it into a goal. That's the only way you do it. That is how you do it. Dreams are up here. I got all these dreams versus I got 3 specific goals. Pick up the pen and write it out in conversational English, not half a sentence. Put you in there. There's a difference between run a marathon and I want to run a marathon. Start a business and I want to start a business. Put numbers in there. I want to start a business in 2021. Now my imagination is more focused. There's a time constraint. Okay? When a goal is when paper hits pen, the likelihood of that scenario transpiring, we're not even talking about getting detailed on what the next few steps are and who's already doing what you want to do, and research them and ask them to go out for a lunch, listen to their podcast. When pen hits paper, the scenario becomes 1,000% more likely to happen. It goes 10 times more likely. So set goals. Write the stuff down. Get on YouTube. You listen to 3-hour-long podcasts about goal setting. You're so far ahead of the game now, as in 97% of the people. You're now 3% of the population. That's scary. 10% of the population has passports. Only 3% of the population has any kind of goals. I've never met anyone who says, "Yeah, I've got a well-developed goal-setting practice, and it doesn't work at all, which is why I keep doing it." No, it's real. It works. Okay, it will focus your attention, and it will point you where you want to go. The first thing my driving teacher said when I got in the car, when I was 15 3/4 years old, he said, "Look where you want to go, because you're probably going to go there." When you write the thing out, you're looking where you want to go. You're talking yourself into opportunity.
And I could say this, that knowledge is power.
Yes.
Right. And in today's society, we have cell phones and computers. So there's no excuse for ignorance these days. Like, this is the era of information. Anything can be Googled or YouTube or whatever tube it is now, and you can get the correct information that's needed. Right? Knowledge is power. Do your homework. Prepare your mind. Look for guidance in whatever you read, because like I said, you can learn a lot from it, don't you? Sometimes you can learn not what they do and not what they say.
100%.
You know, so everything is teachable. You just got to be able to look at it and listen for it and find out, you know, what type of information you are receiving, and research that information. You know,
and hang out with people that interest you.
yeah.
You know, hang out with people that you feel good being around. There's a good litmus test. Do I feel good being around this person? Am I better off having had this conversation than before? Sometimes that's easier said than done, and do it.
Yeah. You know, y'all. You know, it's this life thing is a trip. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally, it's a trip. You know, and it's very good to always surround yourself with people that on that same train on that trip. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Well, you know, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up, man. And you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go ahead, like I always do. I'm gonna go ahead and put out all your information, whatever you want, on there, so that people can reach out to you. You know what I'm saying? But thank y'all very much. You know what I'm saying, for this whole conversation, because I'm hoping that the same way that young lady, I hope this can reach people. That's the only reason I really do this.
Yeah.
Is to reach people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm pretty much gonna keep it always the same, because the information that I get, the knowledge I got, and others that want to help is useless unless we put it out there.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I call it Elevated Beings Podcast, because I deal with elevated beings in my cipher. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, but appreciate y'all again, and, like, you know, Much love to the VA family.
That's it. 2 up, 2 down.
That's it.
Peace.